Widow Mrs. Eleanor entered the bank to claim her long-awaited inheritance. The banker, notorious for his arrogance, couldn't suppress his laughter as he glanced at her tattered clothes and worn-out shoes. However, when Eleanor opened the old weathered envelope, the contents inside caused the banker's face to go pale. What he discovered in that envelope would alter everything, and the color drained from his face as he grasped the astonishing secret it contained. Eleanor felt adrift and isolated after the loss of her husband. They had spent decades together, sharing nearly every day of their lives. For the past few weeks, one particular envelope had occupied her thoughts. She settled at her dining room table and carefully opened the letter, her eyes widening in shock as she read that her husband had left her something in his inheritance. During his lifetime, they had lived modestly, barely making ends meet. So when he passed away, Eleanor assumed there wouldn't be much to inherit, especially since they had always shared a bank account and she knew its balance. Confused by the unexpected letter, she decided to visit the bank. Upon arrival, she found the bank bustling with activity and a long line at the reception. Eleanor quickly joined the queue, hoping the wait would be brief. Her legs were no longer young and she hadn't brought her cane. Minutes passed, and the line showed no signs of shortening. Peering past the people in front of her, she was shocked to see the banker engrossed in his phone, oblivious to the customers waiting. Gradually, people began to drift away, seeking other lines that were moving. Eleanor found herself second in line, and when the person ahead of her also failed to catch the banker's attention, they walked away as well. "Hello, good afternoon, sir," Eleanor said. "I have a strange question and was hoping you could help me." The banker gave no indication of noticing Eleanor's presence, so she tried something else. She slammed the letter onto the desk. "My husband died, and he left me something in his will. I don't know what it is, so I need your help now." The banker suddenly looked up from his phone. His eyes scanned Eleanor from top to bottom, and a smirk began to form on his face. "What is it?" Eleanor asked. Now the banker really began to laugh. "I'm sorry," he laughed, "but I'm sure whatever your husband left you isn't worth your time, and it sure isn't worth my time. Go home." Eleanor felt her blood boil. "I can get you fired, you know," she said, while sternly keeping eye contact with the banker. The banker sighed. "Fine, I'll see what I can do." He picked up the letter and began to read. Eleanor watched as his facial expression changed while reading the handwritten note her husband had written for her. "Please wait over there," the banker said, pointing Eleanor to an area with couches and magazines. "I'll have to look in the back for you. It will take a moment." Eleanor nodded. "Thank you," she said with a kind smile on her face. They were all patiently waiting, but as time ticked by, they all got their turn. Eleanor spotted the banker, Mr. Hadley, through the glass wall, his hands trembling as they held what Eleanor immediately recognized as her own letter, the blue tint of the paper unmistakable. Looking worried, his shock told Eleanor that her husband had left her something big, and the banker didn't know how to handle it. Her mind raced with questions. What could be so important that it requires such immediate attention? Walking through the bank's back offices, Eleanor heard snippets of hushed voices. "Must be handled delicately," one said. Another asked, "Are the papers in order?" She felt like she was in a maze, surrounded by secrets on all sides. The bank manager approached, having noticed her earlier distress. "Can I help?" he asked with gentle concern. Eleanor was surprised. The manager's offer felt like a lifeline. Inside the cozy confines of the manager's office, Eleanor felt a wave of relief. She sat down across from the manager and took a deep breath before speaking. The confusion was clear in her voice as she described the banker's worried expression and the talk of fortunes that had caught her off guard. "I see why you're concerned," he said after she finished. "Let me assure you, we'll get to the bottom of this." When the manager came back, his whole demeanor looked different. Where he had been open and kind before, now he was serious and careful. "Mrs. Eleanor," he started, "there's something about your husband's account that we need to talk about. It seems your husband set this up a long time ago with specific rules for when it was to be given to you." He told her that the manager spoke of keeping things quiet and the need to handle everything by the book. "We have to take care of some legal stuff first," he said. "It's clear he wanted to make sure you were taken care of, even after he was gone." The manager finished by sliding a small brass key across his desk towards Eleanor. "This was your husband's way of speaking to you one last time," he said softly. The key was to a safety deposit box, one he had kept private. In the quiet hum of the vault, Eleanor inserted the key into the safety deposit box. As the lock clicked open, she held her breath. Inside, there were papers, jewelry, and old photographs, each item a chapter of their life together now revealed. Eleanor unfolded the letters carefully, as if they were fragile leaves from an autumn gone by. Her husband's writing, steady and familiar, spoke of deep love and heartfelt apologies. Each letter was a confession, a memory, a piece of his soul laid bare. With each word, she felt him with her, whispering stories and secrets kept silent for too long. The last envelope Eleanor opened contained not only a letter, but also a small key with an address. Her husband's note explained that this key led to a place that held even more of his love for her. With a mix of excitement and anxiety, Eleanor prepared to follow this last clue, ready to uncover the full extent of the surprise her husband had planned for her all along. She drove through familiar streets until they became less known and the houses around her more sparse. Eleanor arrived at a simple, unmarked house that held the promise of fulfilling her husband's last wishes. Inside the quiet house, she was greeted by the faces of a young family. A couple with a toddler looked up, surprise etched on their features at the sight of an unexpected visitor. "Can we help you?" they asked. Eleanor's voice trembled as she introduced herself, the key in her hand serving as evidence of her connection to the home and its occupants, hints of her husband's secret life. The couple invited Eleanor to sit down, and over cups of tea, they began to unravel the story her husband had left untold. They spoke of a benefactor, kind, anonymous, and generous, who turned out to be the man Eleanor had married. His secret support for this family was a testament to a side of him she never knew, a chapter of his life kept hidden until now. The existence of this other family, sprung from her husband's earlier life, was a wound that throbbed freshly. She began to understand that the man she had loved had complexities and dimensions she had never shared. With this understanding, she found room in her heart for forgiveness. The couple, understanding the house's significance, offered it to Eleanor. It was part of her husband's plan, a final bequest to her. Eleanor walked through the rooms, each corner revealing more about the man she had thought she knew fully. As she spent more time with the family, Eleanor felt a growing sense of connection. They were, in their way, a part of her husband's world, and now, by extension, a part of hers. The couple, with tentative hope in their eyes, asked Eleanor if she would like to be part of their daughter's life. Eleanor saw the offer as a chance to build bridges and create a new chapter in the story of her family. In the days that followed, the couple unveiled the full extent of her husband's support. They had set aside funds for the child's education and established a financial foundation for their family's future. It became evident that her husband had not only left them a house but also a solid base for their lives. Eleanor was deeply moved by the depth of his care and foresight, his legacy serving as a lasting refuge for those he cherished. Motivated by her late husband's hidden generosity, Eleanor resolved to start a charity. This initiative would carry on the kindness he had shown to the family he had loved from a distance. The charity would extend help to others, amplifying the good he had done, a living tribute to a man whose love was as profound as it was intricate. As Eleanor planned for the charity, she began to grasp the true essence of wealth. It wasn't merely about the balance in a bank account, but rather the lives enriched and uplifted through generosity. She recognized her late husband's legacy as more than just a sum of money. It was a wealth of giving that would continue to flourish and nurture the community he had quietly supported.